I use the term beast of individuation in cinematic quest for identity to indicate the figures that appear to heroes, as La Bête appeared to Belle when they are about to embark on the quest. This phrase honors La Bête, and it recalls Cocteau's enduring celebration of living courageously. The beast arises from the depths of the hero's psyche and represents a wound suffered in childhood. At the end of Cocteau's movie, when Belle kisses the dying beast and he is transformed into a handsome prince, she accepts the part of herself that is corporeal and sensual, which she has up to that point denied in order to remain with her aging father. Cocteau's romantic and much maligned denouement seems to negate the modern psychological interpretation of the movie as leading to that moment of individuation, but actually, it just keeps us honest. The filmmaker gently nudges us back to childhood or adolescence when we imagine that romantic love alone would make us whole. At the US premiere of the film, Cocteau said he wished to make the beast, and I quote, so human, so sympathetic, so superior to men, that his transformation into Prince Charming would come as a terrible blow to beauty. The writer-director's remarkable spirit shines through that disappointing transfiguration that robs us of the noble beast, yet asks of us, what if you could live in this evanescent moment when you believed all things were possible? The retort is that we would live more fully, knowing that death portends rebirth. Only the beast allows us to revel in that moment. I would like to show you the quest as it appears in Jonathan Demme's The Silence of the Lambs for a couple of reasons, because Demme is just a master filmmaker, and very few scholars, except for this film, has paid attention to his work. He has very interesting use of sound, and of course, one of the best cinematographers ever, Tak Fujimoto. He also really knows how to mix a film, which is taking all of the sound elements and using them well. His re-recording mixer, who's the one who does the final mix on this movie, is actually now, I think, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, he's an Academy Award winner now, right, Tommy Fleshman? I can't remember for which film. And I had the honor, actually, of sitting in the studio. Just as background, nearly all the conventions of the quest in Western culture derive from Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and Celtic mythology, medieval epic poems like Percival, and sometimes from folklore and fairy tales. In Eastern traditions, the progress of the hero's quest is similar, but obviously derived from different sources, such as the avatars of Hindu myth or the kami of Japanese creation stories. Cinematic quests generally follow, as you'll see in this film, classic dramatic structure. In other words, Aristotle's conclusion in Poetics, the character's plot. The motivation of the hero drives the narrative. So his or her personality must be established early on in cinematic quests, preferably in film through a combination of image and sound. So go to the first slide. Now, immediately in this slide, that, by the way, I think you can see this fairly well, right? This is a very vaporous forest in which Clarice is jogging. And part of it is the Quantico course. And forests are dark, they're primordial, they're scary places in fairy tales, in medieval literature, as well as in the movies. And in Western myth, they're the home of what's called the chthonic goddesses, the earth goddesses, and underworld spirits. In the title shots, Clarice traverses that Quantico course in its hurdles, which recalls the path of the Olympians in ancient Greece. They competed in the name of Athena, the goddess of war, the only one permitted to wear the aegis, which has the picture of the Gorgon Medusa on it. And that picture turned all her enemies to stone. So, in these title shots, Demi immediately establishes heroic personality, her physical prowess, her courage, but it also foreshadows Clarice's psychological and spiritual journey. The Quantico course is metaphorical. When Dante descended into Purgatory and the Inferno, he had to get past the Minotaur, the half-bull, half-man monster. And every hero has that. Once they descend, they begin to descend. It's descents, but I like to think of it as a circle. I call it the great round in the book, the heroic journey. But this descent is pretty scary because you're starting to confront things that you haven't thought about in years, and usually they're frightening things that you've been avoiding for a long time. So the Minotaur appears. And in Dante's, in Purgatory, or excuse me, in the Inferno, which is the seventh level of the violent, is where the Minotaur is. Virgil, who was Dante's guide, sort of, went like this, and the Minotaur was turned around, and Dante slipped through. But Clarice doesn't have any help. And she has Dr. Chilton, who is the person who is in charge of the Baltimore institution where Lecter is incarcerated. And in this shot, which is so brilliant, first because of the color, as you see, it has sort of a reddish tint to it, which suggests, of course, hell or the nether regions. And he's holding up a picture of a nurse that Lecter gored. I mean, he bit into her face. And so he's trying to scare Clarice. But Clarice's heroic personality, first thing she does is action. So she's got, Crawford told her to go there and interview Lecter, and that's what she's going to do. So she looks at the picture, and she's frightened, but she sails ahead. Okay, now this is where, when she arrives, by the way, there's a wonderful sequence in her getting there when she gets down into where the cells are, where Lecter is. Chilton takes her down those steps, and it's wonderful and very disorienting. And this is when she arrives right at the nadir of the labyrinth, what I think of as the labyrinth. And I'm going to play this for you. Listen to the clang.
Like so, you keep the right. I'll put on a chair for you.
Very good, right?
I'll be watching. You'll do fine.
There's two clangs, the doors are open, the doors are closing. This is the point of no return for Clarice. She's in the labyrinth now, she's about to meet the beast, and the interesting thing is the way that Demi uses the music. As you notice, it doesn't come up until she's through the gate. And the music in this film is always cueing you to Clarice's vulnerability. While she looks like a hero, she acts like a hero, Howard Shore's score is brilliant, and of course Demi's mix of it is. And next, okay. So the final phase of the hero's quest is integrating the beast. And integrating the beast means accepting the part of ourselves that is a little scary. Especially if we want to go and hunt murderers like Clarice does. So in the first shot at the top is what I was talking about before. From the glass wall cell, we now move to a cell that has bars. And at some point in the movie, Lecter is given the case file for Buffalo Bill. And he has promised to return it to her with notes. And this is where he does it. And so what does it remind you of? The Sistine Chapel. It's God touching Adam you know, the scintillation of life. And Demi comes up very close on it. Interestingly, the last scene of the film, Clarice puts out her hands and shakes Crawford's hand at a party, and he also comes up close on it. But this is far more meaningful. She's integrated all of the instinctual knowledge that's now going to allow her to not only catch killers, but to understand that why she's there. That the screaming of the lambs took her all the way to the FBI. And in the next shot, underneath that, is a drawing that you see in a very quick pan. It's just, I must have watched the movie 12 times before I saw it. But in a very quick pan, if you remember when he's in Memphis, that's when he kills those police officers, and he hangs one up like a butterfly on the cage. And apparently, sometime in there, after he saw Clarice and he committed the murder, he did this beautiful sketch. And in that sketch is Clarice with the Paschal Lamb, or the Agnus Dei, as it's known in Christianity. And it's a temporal drawing. So in the background, you'll see, I don't know, I hope you can see, right here are the crosses of Golgotha, where Christ was crucified. And then in the foreground, of course, which is the present, is Clarice as a shepherd, the reborn, with the reborn lamb. And so it's a beautiful image of redemption, but also Lecter's acknowledgement that she's no longer a student. As long as Clarice remains at the FBI, she'll be compelled to choose between the path that will allow her to continue to be herself, to remain a conscious human being, always striving to do the work she was meant to do, and the path that threatens to take her further and further away from consciousness and meaning, basically to become Jack Crawford.